This game is The Gate Escape by Mike Peace. It was released in 1983 and it is for the Bally Arcade, Astrocade. It was on tape number 18. This is the cover art for the tape. It is really neat if you ask me. It shows a couple of characters that are in the game and it gives them names which actually are not mentioned in the instructions. You play as the hero, who's Little Novos. There's 4 different villains. On screen 1, he's called Gopher. On screen 3, you get Obscene Jester. On screen 4 and 5, you get Quaker Otis, and the last baddie is called Morty post Mortem. The instructions for this game are pretty brief. I'm actually going to read them in full. You will be moving Little Novos using the joystick to guide him to collect the X's and avoid the villain. Novos appears on the top of the screen and the villain is on the bottom to start. You can realign the gates by running into them and blocking off entire sections of the screen to trap the bad guys out. You cannot go through the center of a gate or move if the joystick is pointed at a wall or a gate center. The villain will try to make a jump to your sector on the screen by using his transporter. When it appears on screen, you could have a limited amount of time before he makes a jump. The transporter homes in on sound you make, and if you don't steal it from the villain quick enough, you'll be in serious trouble. Difficulty levels increase as you go from screen to screen by collecting all of the X's. This is the title screen of the game, as grabbed from the video that I made. I wanted to do some comparison because I think all classic game systems look better on actual CRT screens. And here is a picture of a CRT screen of the screen as it loads. It doesn't look very good here because of the moire effects that are introduced from my camera, but you don't get this weird effect that you get when you do video capture. If you were to play this under emulation, which has only been available for a short time, in fact it was this past weekend when it was added, and you can load games preliminary from tape under the MAME emulator, although it's not supported officially yet. And I've just discovered that the MAME emulator doesn't run full speed when using AstroBASIC. This is the game in progress, taken from a real CRT. This game was reviewed in the September 1983 issue of the Arcadian newsletter. This is the cover of that newsletter. Since video game ads for the Astrocade are pretty rare, I've decided to read this review in its entirety. It says, in this latest addition to the WaveMakers catalog, the players will be maneuvering a little fellow named Little Novos around the playfield to collect a scattering of X's while at the same time trying to avoid the villain. There is also a number of gates throughout the playfield which the player can orient to block or trap the villain while he tries to grab more X's. The playfield is very difficult to describe as far as this system of gates is concerned. It is not a maze. The gates pivot at their center so that they may be positioned east-west or north-south. Gate Escape is a very enjoyable and challenging game to play. It may be played by 1 to 4 players, with each player starting with 5 lives. The level of difficulty increases as you go from screen to screen, collecting the X's for points. Each new screen or playfield brings a new villain. Gate Escape was well liked by everyone, though some found it hard to score. It takes practice and planning to rack up a high score on this one, and there is plenty of fun doing so. Graphics are quite nice, and the music, which is always a plus in any game, is a welcome addition to the sound effects. Gate Escape is another good buy from WaveMakers. Since Vindicator was also reviewed in this, it's a game by Tiny Arcade. Here is a picture of what it looks like. This game has actually not been archived. I've not been able to find it anywhere. I don't know anyone who has a tape. If you do have the tape for this game, let me know. I would like to see it archived. What got me going on this game was I wanted to see if I could do a listing in BASIC, and I was able to use various tools to list out in this format, in a text-readable format, the Astrocade code. This is just the first page of it, and you can actually make changes to it if you want. Although this game is written in BASIC, it makes quite a few calls to machine language subroutines that are built into the ROM. That is how all the characters are displayed on screen, including the character you play. I have gone through and disassembled that code, which I'm going to show here. At some future point, I plan to make a video of how I did that. It's not an easy process to do, and it took quite a bit of time to disassemble the code. So I am going to show it here. If you know what this kind of stuff means, if you know Z80 machine language at all, this will make sense to you at least a bit. If you don't, just look past this, look at some of the graphics that I actually present in the listing, and understand that the basic program is calling to parts of the screen where machine language code is hidden. So whenever there is a call to 20200 or 20,200 from the basic program, it jumps to hex code 4EE8 in RAM, which is here. And like I said, this probably doesn't make any sense whatsoever. All you get is a couple of hex values. If you were to look at the machine code listing, you wouldn't make any sense out of that. So I disassembled it and commented it. So for those who do understand this a little bit, I'm going to walk you through this, but very briefly, because I know most people have no idea what this probably is talking about, and just want to see the gameplay, which will be coming up here in a few short minutes, maybe even less time than that. So I added some comments to the top of the screen. I disassembled this on February 25th, 2019. It is now March 20th, 2019, so it's about a month later, 3 weeks later, I guess. This is my first version of this assembly, but it was such easy code to follow that I don't think I'll need to change this. This code will assemble with ZMac. It's a disassembler that can run under Linux and Windows. And I suppose if anyone wanted to compile the C code, it could also be run under the Mac. This code runs, like I said, from a location in screen RAM, which is unusual on other systems. It's very normal for all code to be run from screen RAM on the Astrocade. In fact, that's the only RAM the Astrocade has, unless you have a RAM expansion. So getting past that, the first thing that happens is it does a call to string display, which normally would display a string. In this case, we are redefining the code is redefining. I didn't write this code. The code is redefining some fonts. And so when it does that, it tells it what fonts it wants to display, and it displays it quickly, jumps back to the basic portion of the program. So like all programs that I am aware of that are written in BASIC but use some machine language code, that there is blinking on the screen. This is normal. BASIC was not actually able to easily write like any redefined graphics to the screen. I mean, you could redefine them with box commands and line commands, but it was very slow. This lets you put a graphic on the screen very quickly. So if we go to the next page of this, you can check out actually what the characters look like. So if you look at line 59 to 66, there is a character, and that character is our Little Novos. After that, we have Morty post Mortem, then Quaker Otis, then the Obscene Jester, and then Gopher. And this is what the player collects, the little X. And that star is the transporter that appears on the screen. This probably seems pretty complicated, and for most people it probably is. I find it interesting. I was wondering how WaveMakers was able to get this program to run in just 1.8K of RAM, including the machine language portion of the game, which is also included on the screen. Coming up next is my gameplay. It's about a few minutes long, I think like 5 or 6 minutes long. After that, the basic listing will be shown, and then end credits. Enjoy, and if you get a chance to play this game, try loading this up on a real Astrocade, and you'll be surprised at how fun this game is. It looks very simple, rudimentary even maybe, but it's one of the few games on the Astrocade which I think is not quite an original idea. I think other games were doing something similar to this at the time, but it is it's pretty neat. Enjoy. This last portion here is Mike Peace, who wrote this game, introducing the game from the second side of the tape. He did this sometimes before his basic programs, and this is one of those few times that he did this. When this game was archived, the introduction remained, although you can't hear it when you load the game, but you can hear it here. Here's Mike Peace introducing his game from 1983.
This is tape 18, side 2, The Gate Escape.
you